Dumelang ra le amohela ho Thokese ka jeko ke tla ho lona ke le Western Cape provinceng enang le dithaba lewatle le batho ba bantle empa tropo ena ya Hanover Park ya aparetswe ke bonokwane diritibatsi le dipolao tse leng hore di fetsa batho ba yone tulo ena. Studies have shown hore batho ba leng hore ha ba itse ho bala le ho ngwala maphelo bona gantsi a fella bonokwaneng. Joining me today is Shuaib Hussein, who is the manager at the Sultan Bahu Rehab Center, where we're talking illiteracy and how it leads to a life of crime. Shuaib, welcome to Talk SA.
Welcome, thanks a lot.
How has this community of Hanover Park been affected by illiteracy?
Hanover Park is unfortunately a remnant of post-apartheid South Africa, and as a result, we have transgenerational patterns of illiteracy, which feeds into other social ills such as high crime rates and substance use.
Let's head on back to our studio and meet the community of Hanover Park. 78% of grade 4 learners in South Africa cannot read or write. In the early years of our learning, we often learn to read. And now, beyond grade 4, you're supposed to read to learn. However, that is not the case, and especially for our guests today, whose lives are then led into a life of crime and gangsterism. Joining me today is Abdurrahman Ismail, who is a former American gangster. Welcome to Talk SA.
Hi.
We also have Walid Hotley, who is a former gangster of a group called Nice Time Kids. We also welcome you to Talk SA. And lastly, we've got Adrian Jenica, who is a school dropout and also a recovering addict. Gentlemen, we welcome you all.
Thank you very much.
Abdurrahman, I'm going to start with you. Take me through your early years, how you went to school, the family you lived with, and what were your dreams as a little boy?
Oh, I grew up in a very middle-class family, loving mother, loving father, very spiritual people in the area of Kensington, you know. And I was a very jolly young boy. Very jolly, very friendly, you know, until the age of 12, when things just went raucous, you know.
What happened?
Oh, at 12 years old in grade 7, I found out that my dad is not my real dad, but he's been with my mother ever since. And then I felt that my family has betrayed me, you know, they kept away the truth from me. And so I just went outside, you know, and I went to go look for that family love outside, where lots of things happened to me. People took advantage, you know. I never knew what monsters was lurking outside. I thought like belonging to a gang was a sense of belonging, but not knowing what I found out a few years ago, that you just get used, you know. There was this one guy, I won't use his name, very well-known gangster. He acted like as if he was my dad, because coming from a middle-class family, you know, I could drive at a very young age because we had cars, and he actually used me to drive his drugs around.
At age 12?
13, 12 years old, and by the age of 14, I was out of the house. I was living with this guy that slowly indoctrinated me into let me believing he's my dad, you know.
Walid, take me through your early childhood years. When did you leave school?
I basically left school at the age of 15. I was grade 8. I came from a broken family. While growing up, there was a lot of fights in the house. Eventually, mom and dad divorced, you know. I got freedom. I was exposed to drugs at the age of 9.
Take me through your early childhood years. You were never part of any gangs, but not finishing your school also led to a different kind of life. Take me through those years.
At school, I used to be a different person since I was young. Me and my cousins and the guys in the road, we all used to go to school together, so we kind of like had a gang on school. We used to fight other boys from other communities that goes to school there. We used to stab each other with the pens.
Why?
Because it's our territory.
And how old were you at this time?
I was about 7, 8 years old, younger.
How did that affect your school performance?
I was never in school. I never performed in school.
Nothing at all?
No.
Abdurrahman, I want to come back to you. When you then found yourself a sense of family with a group of gangsters. What sort of activities did you find yourself doing, and why did you have to get into such?
At the end of the day, that was another society different to the one that I was raised up in. And there, you did exactly the opposite than what your mother would expect from you.
And the two of you belonged to two separate gangster groups.
Back in the day, we would have shot each other.
You really? Why? Because was it territory? What was the fight about?
Today, we realize that it was territory and it was the sales of the big bosses, you know, because the more territory they had, the more drugs they could sell.
Adrian, having dropped out of school in grade 10, what impact does that have in your life? Are you able to do a lot of things that people take for granted in terms of reading a contract? How's it held you back in life?
I used to have a job, but I couldn't keep the job while I was smoking drugs. I could never keep a job while I'm using. So,
how are you surviving now? What are you doing in terms of putting plate on your family's table, and also just what are you doing in terms of recovering and getting out of that life?
So at the moment, I'm working on the construction as a general worker, and my recovery started last year, the 2nd of August.
And your body went through quite a lot during those years. Do you mind sharing some of those scars with us?
I was shot a few times, you know. I have scars to prove it and that.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for your touching stories, and most importantly for opening up your hearts to all of South Africa and letting them know that there's hope at the end of the day. So thank you for that.
Pleasure.
Thank you.
Ha re godisa bana ba rona re sa ba fi thuto e tshwantseng ba ithole le lerato la lelapa, hangata ba ithola ba le mo di-situationeng tse leng gore ba kena mo bonokwaneng ba thola maphelo a bone a feletse gone mo. Gopola gore rona re le batho tshwanetse re tshwaragane le bana ba golang within the communities tsa rona gore ba tlo kgone gore e be batho ba golang in a society where they can give back. Re tla le bona ha re tsa papatsong. Re phetere le amohele hape ho SABC 2 le shebeletse Talk SA ka jeko re bua ka go itse go bala le go kena sekolo le gore bana ba rona ha ba sa dithole dilo tseo ba fella mo bophelong ba bonokwane. Nahana o sa itse berekisa phone, go sa tsebo berekisa ATM kapa ho bala kuranta, go etsa eng mo mothong le gore ba tswe kontle ba lo ipatlela dilo tse leng gore ba tla kgona go iphedisa ka tsone. Joining me now in studio are guests that are going to give us more light into this topic. Firstly, we have Shoaib Hussein, who's the manager at the Sultan Bahu Rehab Center. We welcome you to Talk SA.
Thank you.
We also have a mother who's unfortunately lost her son due to gangsterism activities, and she's Rashida McDavids. We also welcome you, ma'am, to Talk SA. And lastly, we have Juanita Abrahams, who is a social worker. Welcome to Talk SA.
Thank you.
Shoaib, I want to start with you. How bad is it in terms of having young people not having literacy skills that are able to then propel them in life?
It's quite a challenge. On the one hand, you have the challenge of dealing with the substance use disorder treatment and overcoming that. And that in itself gives us very unique challenges, which the person has to free up their inner resources. And when they eventually do come clean, you have the lack of education, which adds another couple of hurdles. And these individuals typically do not have access to employment opportunities that other more educated clients have access to.
And a lot of them then resort to crime and drugs just to get by.
Unfortunately, it becomes a never-ending spiral. So they may come clean in the rehabilitation treatment, but without that employment opportunities and other opportunities, perhaps even to study further, they become bored, and the relapse becomes part of the pattern, so they end up in treatment once again.
Well, McDavid, just for you to take us through rather your son's life story. I mean, he was involved in drugs. He became someone who wanted to recover. He even worked at the rehab center where he facilitated and he assisted. But unfortunately, he was caught in a crossfire and he lost his life. As a parent, what did you go through during that time?
Well, it was a very sad thing because he strived to survive and to come right. But like on his way to the rehab, He was shot in a crossfire, and it was very sad because we were waiting for his body. We couldn't get his body, and that also, and all the South Ambao children was sitting there and waiting for him, and eventually we got his body. I can't explain. I'm devastated. I'm still crying. And I will always be grateful and thankful for South Ambao because he relapsed, and then he comes back. They take him on again, and then they help him and made him stronger. And they have thinkers like religious, how can I say, spiritual. And he was one of them, and he was very good. And
yeah, we really do ask God to be with you and your family through this trying time. Juanita, as a social worker, in terms of the children that leave school and find themselves in such activities, is it that we're seeing more children from impoverished backgrounds getting themselves in such situations, or is it across the board?
Because we're living in these communities, most preferably it is those coming from impoverished communities. So, however, we do have also clients coming from middle class that's also struggling with employment issues, because once they're in this disease of addiction, they basically lose everything. And depending on the age where they started using, that also has an impact on that.
Sure.
Unfortunately, the young kids that are using and who are genuinely addicted to illicit substances or illicit substances, they fall out of school. So more often than not, we are losing those groups of youngsters because they're no longer in school. They're not available for treatment services. And this is the missing population. This is the population that's going to grow up. It's going to evolve into problematic substance use going forward. And they're going to become adults who's going to enter treatment. So prevention and education work is absolutely vital, especially with our younger age groups.
Do you think we have enough programs in schools that support children with dyslexia or learning problems? Because if I'm a child and I cannot read, and it's so uncomfortable to be sitting in a classroom trying to read with other children laughing at me, should we not have more programs that allow for handwork, for home economics, like we used to back in the day?
Absolutely. The screening for learning disabilities is absolutely essential and should actually be occurring in the preschool years or the pre-formative schooling years. Once the issue is picked up, they should actually have access to further educational opportunities to deal with that issue before they hit the formal schooling years. And it is a challenge because if these issues are not picked up, and in most preschools they are not picked up, these youngsters are too embarrassed to report the issue. They struggle in school, and as a coping mechanism, they do start to use substances. In fact, they're pressurized into using substances.
Sure. So, Juanita, in such situations, what should parents be doing? Should parents still be forcing their children to go to school, or can we find alternative methods in order to let these young people still thrive in life?
It's actually very difficult because most of them, they come from broken homes also. So they have parents that are also unemployed or parents that aren't also educated. So they don't get that motivation from families also. But every parent should actually do that to motivate them, to go out there. And that's what we also do. We don't only focus on abstinence and behavioral change, but we also focus on reintegrating them back into society. So, yeah.
So the challenge that we're actually sitting with is one of a transgenerational nature. And when clients finish off treatment programs, it's very important to get them back into that swing of things. So if they don't have the basic education, we need to know why they weren't educated basically. If there is a learning disability whilst in treatment, we would refer them to institutions that specialize in that. And once they're done with treatment, we would refer them into further educational opportunities such as the ABIT classes. Once they're done with ABIT, explore the possibility in the aftercare phase of getting them into tertiary education. You're never too old to go and study. And the further you're educated, or the more you're educated, the better employment opportunities are going to be made available.
Rashida, you're a teacher yourself. You're involved with a lot of young children. Tell me about that experience.
I've got a madrasa. It's named Madrasa to South Ambao. And Mr. Davids gave me permission to use that name. I use it youth. My son, he loved the Quran and he loved music. They call the nasheeds and all that. And then he used to help me before. And trying to do that, I thought that maybe this will be a great difference in him. Because we used to make salah together, we used to recite together. And then I teach them, and I've got about 42 children that I'm teaching.
We're out in Hanover Park and we've got a whole community that is willing to find solutions together with us in order to get our young people off the streets and bettering their lives. Any questions from this community?
Good morning. My name is Hafitha Santon Satarin. And my question to the panel this morning is, what other learning opportunities do the center at Sultan Bahu provide to the clients?
Sure. Actually, the South African government has a number of programs running. We have learnership programs being offered by the various departments and so forth. So as a treatment institution, much like others, we obviously liaise with various government departments and we get our clients access to these learnership opportunities. There's also a number of NGOs that offer further education opportunities, whether it's computer literacy, reading, access to tertiary education, and so forth. So we work within an intra-network with such organizations.
Lovely. Our next question is...
Good morning. My name is Farida Abrams. My concern is a lot of youth gets arrested due to drugs. I want to know what hope is there to get employment in the future since they end up with a criminal record.
Absolutely. That's a very good question. And that's one of the biggest stumble blocks. Even if somebody is educated and they have a degree, if they have a criminal record, it pops up every time they go for an interview. There is a certain paperwork which we can fill with the Department of Justice and even Correctional Services if they were under probation, and we can have the criminal records expunged. The only challenge with that, there's a bit of a waiting list to that entire process, but it's the only system we have in place. And as an organization, we have assisted clients in doing so in the past to bolster their chances of finding employment.
It's a long journey indeed, but with us holding hands and people looking for help and people giving that help, we can surely assist our young people in getting whatever literacy that they need in order to propel their lives forward. Hopola hore o ka re ngwalla ho talk SA at sabc.co.za ha ka ba o batla re tle ho wena re tlo bua le community ya hao ka ditaba tse leng hore di shebaneng le lona. Ha re tsa papatsong re tlo bua le Skype expert sa rona o seke wa baya hope ra hola. Who Talk SA. Today we're talking about illiteracy and how it leads to a life of crime. Joining us now on Skype is a former principal, Mr. Abu Solomons, who was the principal of Spares Bona High School. We welcome you to Talk SA.
Hello everyone. Assalamu alaikum.
Mr. Solomons, what is the most difficult thing for children growing up in these communities?
The problem of literacy is a very complex one. For me, based on my experience and so on, my own reading, the socioeconomic conditions, poor socioeconomic conditions have a direct impact on the question of literacy. And the simple reason is that you have far more children who can't read or write in the schools in the poorer area. So clearly, there's a correlation between poverty and a deprivation and illiteracy or illiteracy.
So in your opinion, how is the level of illiteracy in teaching, within teaching in the school system?
As far as formal education is concerned, there's still far too little emphasis on early childhood development. The government is beginning to wake up with regards to ECD. They are making attempts to address that problem and to ensure that early childhood development takes place. But unfortunately, there's not enough emphasis placed on that. There are also not enough qualified ECD teachers. There are many teachers who have completed the level 5 qualification, but they are unable to complete the B.Ed qualification at a tertiary institution because they may not have matric or they don't have the formal education required to do the B.Ed.
Mr. Solomons, thank you for your time and thank you for your insights. We now turn back to our community of Hanover Park to hear what solutions you have with regards to helping our children stay in school, reading, and therefore leading a productive life. We'll start with the lady.
Take opportunities as it comes. At the end of the day, there's always learning happening. Wherever you are, informal, non-formal, it really doesn't matter. When I walked into the stores, the first point of contact was for me a learning curve, because I found that there was people that cared for me, and that was 6 years ago. And through this organization, I have gotten learning opportunities. I've gotten to go to UWC, and I'm currently doing my higher certificate in adult education at UCT. My message of hope would be, don't let somebody else determine you. Your past does not determine your future. That there is hope, there's always hope. And through learning, you can make everything possible.
True, poverty is truly a state of mind. Thank you so much for sharing that story with us. And lastly, the gentleman at the back.
I almost give hope up. I did live in the school. Like for 3 months, I had to sleep outside in the school for 3 months. I was so like, there isn't hope anymore. Then I want to give up. I almost want to kill me. Then I just find out about Southern Bow Center. I'd give it a try, and they helped me a lot.
Thank you so much. It really is about going out there and looking for that help yourself. To my panelists, your last comments, just giving us some hope in terms of making sure that our children go to school, and even beyond our children. We've got adults that have lost out on those years but are trying to make up for that time. Shuaib?
Sure. I'd just like to say in closing that these days it feels like there's a disconnect between our parents and our kids. And I just want to tell the kids that even though our parents are sometimes much older than us, it doesn't mean that they haven't experienced the challenges that we experience. And similarly to our parents, if you see that your child is struggling, rather than not speaking about it, be open with your children. Take the time and sit out and ask them what's wrong.
Thank you so much. And lastly?
I would like to say that the main problem that we also do face is that there isn't that support from parents. And I think that is imperative when the client is also trying to maintain abstinence and a successful recovery. They need that solid support structure.
Juanita, Shuaib, thank you so much for your insights. Thank you for joining us. And also thank you for the hard work that you are doing within this community.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you to the community of Hanover Park for sharing your stories with us and showing the rest of South Africa that there is hope after a life that has been dismantled. You should remember, illiteracy can lead to a lot of people being unable to look after themselves and depend on others. But we should always remember that education can break the cycle of poverty. Social media, #TalkSA. Thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, goodbye. Thank you.